sure.
spread this information. Okay, so explain this area again one more time, just really quickly, and then what is the issue with these trees and the misconception that someone would have if they just came here on their own?
Yeah, many people think this is a forest, and it's from my point of view, it's not. A forest for me is a diversity of different tree species in different age classes and deadwood and a lot of wildlife. What you see here is a tree plantation. It's mainly one tree species in one age class and one size. Here it's spruce. And I mean, the biodiversity has developed during thousands and millions of years in a natural forest, of course. So all insects and mushrooms and the plants have found their own little niche in that natural forest. And when you cut away the natural forest, then you literally cut away the precondition for biodiversity. And when you replace it with just one tree species, you simply not provide the context for the biodiversity in nature to return. So we not only cut it away, we also push it. We give it no room to return. Yeah.
So these were cut away not that long ago?
Yeah, this is maybe like 20 years ago or something. Bit hard to tell.
And without a variety of different trees, you don't have the biological makeup for a lot of organisms to exist here in their own way, because it takes a makeup of several varieties of vegetation in order to create a natural environment, nature environment.
Yeah.
Okay. And also the fact that these are all probably close to the exact same age.
Yeah.
Causes issue too, like you said with dead trees, because as they die and decompose, they also create habitat and create other organic biomatter for nature to exist in, right?
Yes. Like I mentioned before, like all the insects and plants and mushrooms have developed together with different tree species. So you have special insects for oaks, you have special insects for maples, you have special insects and special mushrooms for other trees. And when you cut away this
the variety,
exactly, and replace it with a monoculture, you literally cut away the preconditions for very much of the biodiversity.
Well, let
the
alone
insects, they need the diversification. Otherwise, it's like to just feed us with spaghetti.
right?
We need a difference.
So let's say you had control over this area right here.
Yeah.
Is there something you could do to actually help to bring back that biodiversity, or is this area basically for now staunched to where it's going to be stuck in this?
No, that's the beauty of it. I mean, nature is working 24/7 to restore itself. I mean, nature was here before us. Nature knows how to regenerate. So the first thing to do in this area, in such an area like this, is to take a half step backwards, and to stop working towards nature, because a plantation is a result of much work. You have to maintain it, otherwise nature will take over. So the first thing I would do is to make a document, how does it look today? And the second step would be to make an inventory to see how would a natural forest look here at this site and this site down there when it's a bit more wet, and up here when it's a bit more dry, to make so to say a map over how a natural forest would look. And the third step would be to make a management plan with the aim that a managed forest like this over time would move towards a more natural forest. So in this place here, it would be to over time reduce the spruces and let the broadleaf tree come. So it would turn into a more diverse forest.
So would you introduce the broadleaf tree, or would it come on its own?
That depends. That depends. In some area, there are so few natural trees left, so you have to introduce them. But in most of the area in Sweden, there are trees enough to start a regeneration. But then we also have this hunting situation in Sweden that is quite twisted. In this region, for example, we have so much deers and moses, so most of the broadleaf trees actually have problem to regenerate because they got eaten. So you have to regulate the hunting also.
Somebody told us that if you plant a tree, it's always different because the roots are not really connected to that soil from the beginning.
Yeah.
If nature plants it, it's different because then the connection is there from the beginning.
Yeah, it's better.
Yeah.
It's better.
What were you going to say, Milena? Do you remember?
Oh, yeah. Well, I was going to say, even if whatever would thrive with the single type of tree that's here, they still cut it down, and you said like 20 years.
Yeah.
So whatever insects or fungi that would survive with this specific tree, it'd still be
Displaced.
cut away. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, that is true. But in this environment, maybe just a fifth of all insects that naturally is living in this area can survive,
Yeah.
or even less. And this also create an unbalance, because if you see, this is spruce, and now we have, the last year in Sweden, we have had a huge problem with bark beetle. Bark beetle is specialized to eating spruce.
Mm-hmm.
And what you can see here is a whole lot of food for bark beetle.
Yeah.
But since you lack the biodiversity, you have very few natural enemies for the bark beetle. So here is a lot of food, but a lack of enemies. So large areas in Sweden the last year has been eaten up by bark beetle. And that's like an effect of the monoculture system. So monocultures are really yeah, and also sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
They are easily harmed.
Yeah, they're fragile.
Yeah, really fragile. So you have really low resilience in a monoculture plantation compared to a natural forest. So this, to have a natural forest as a goal for the management, it's actually makes it much more safe to do forestry, because the forest is more stable.
Mm. So it's actually more beneficiary even for the forestry industry to have diversity if they actually realize that the trees protect themselves.
Well, we have to separate forest industry and forest owners.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
the forest industry, they would like raw material.
Mm-hmm.
So a big volume for them, cheap as possible, that is good.
Mm.
If you are a producer, you would like a sustainable system that is very stable and that produce high quality that you can get well paid for. And these things is true for ecosystem-based forestry with a diverse forest. This system is very good to produce a big volume to low price for the industry. Mm-hmm. So you must think, are we looking from the industry perspective, then this maybe is very good. If you look from a climate or a biodiversity perspective, this is really horrible. Mm-hmm. And if you look from a forest owner's perspective, this is also not really good. You can do it much better. And if you're a forest owner, then you of course would like to produce timber that is well paid. And trees take, like in Sweden, between 50 and 250 years to grow. I mean, oak like this is 150 years or something, 120, 150. And in northern Sweden, a pine like this is like 2, 3, or 4, 500 years old. And no one, I mean, can you tell me which timber that will be best paid in 100 years from now?
Right.
I mean, no one can. But we can tell what is most vital and what is the most resilient system. and that which also produce the best quality, and also take care of nature. So since I mean society is changing so fast, so we cannot run forestry from the needs from today's society, because the society will change so many times before the tree will go
Mature,
big.
yeah.
Yeah. So
So a biodiverse tree system forest, if you're someone who, let's say you're reforesting an area that has
Yeah.
been clear cut,
yeah.
is beneficial long term for the person who's planting this, even if they're thinking about planting it for commercial reasons, because of the fact that the trees will help support themselves and become more of a quality, I don't know if quality is the word, but a more stronger, resilient tree in the long run.
Yeah, if you're
Because the reason I'm asking that isn't because I'm looking at it from a commercial standpoint. I'm just looking at it from someone who knows that there's so many people out there who are disconnected to the basic understanding of just saving nature, you know.
yeah.
And so people are always looking about their own benefits, and so I'm trying to see if what you're telling me is this also benefits the people who are the ones who have bought this forest or own this land as well.
If you are to reforestate an area, a cleared area, then it's highly beneficial to work with nature, because when natural regeneration in areas where natural regeneration comes for free, I mean, free is free.
Yeah,
A plantation you have to pay for.
yeah.
To establish a plantation like this in Sweden is something like 15,000 crowns a hectare. That is like, I don't know what in dollar.
$1,500.
Yeah, $1,500 a hectare. So that's $700 an acre.
And
But
doesn't it
natural forest comes for free in many areas. Yeah.
doesn't it slowly like degrade the soil as well? So like eventually you won't be able to plant new trees here anyways.
Yeah, monocultures degrade the soils.
Right.
That is also correct. So that's another perspective on this question. So there are like all the reasons to start work together with nature. Forest owners will benefit, nature will benefit, climate will benefit, quality will benefit, and industry will suffer, because industry has been designed to basically rob nature on its resources and producing tree plantation instead of natural areas. And that's, I mean, that is a way that has lead us up to this moment in time and history. And now we have a huge biodiversity loss on a global level, simply because we have changed too large areas. We have changed areas from natural forest into plantations or to agriculture or have.
This is kind of agriculture. It's agriculture with forest.
Yeah,
We
you
have
can
all
say.
these fields everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the same, just with the trees.
So yeah,
So it has the illusion of being natural, but it's still part of the crisis, part
Yeah.
of the environmental
yeah,
crisis.
this is definitely part of the crisis. This is really a big part of the crisis. So in Sweden we have clear-cutted more than half of all tree-covered areas the last 50 years. So more than half of Sweden's tree cover have been clear-cutted the last 50 years, and most of that have been replaced with plantations. And there is no room for nature, and we are continuing doing this. Even the state and the church is doing this, and that is like absolutely crazy, just to feed the industry. And we have
Profit.
short-term profit.
Yeah, profit over humanity and
Yeah.
environment.
So we have to learn a new way how we can, I mean, we can live a really beautiful life and have a good life and build houses and with a design also that works together with nature. We maybe cannot buy so much papers. We maybe have to decrease the consumption of paper, but I think we can live with that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So for the people who are getting involved in the forestry industry, do they have a way to keep working without completely pillaging and destroying what forest is left, or is it basically how would they go about changing so that we could protect the environment?
The industry,
Yeah, is there a way?
they are not today.
What if they don't have any answer, like how they can though? Is there an answer for them? Is there a way?
They have an answer, but that is not. They say we are heading in the right direction.
Do you have one though of a better way?
Oh yes,
What is it?
ecosystem-based forestry.
And what does that mean?
That means that in ecosystem-based forestry, I'm just about to launch a project called Project Regreening. So you can read about it on regreening.se.
Regreening.se.
Yeah. And ecosystem-based forestry, there is the goal that the managed forest shall look as close as possible to a local natural forest, which you cut trees in such a way that the forest always is there. So instead of doing a clear cut, you take some tree, and instead of making a plantation, you work with natural regeneration, and that is a forestry where the first thing you have to learn is to read nature, and to learn to read the local nature, and that's actually, there are handbooks for that. You can read nature to look on the plants on the ground. Here is no plants because it's just a more or less dead spruce plantation, but I can still show you some remnants from nature when we are driving around in an area. So and so to start to change from this plantation and clear cutting forestry into regenerative forestry like ecosystem-based forestry, we can protect the nature that is still left, and we can make room for nature to return where it has been pushed away, like in areas like this. So this is not a doomed area, it's just a matter of time.
So you wouldn't have to deliberately replant trees though, the actual trees themselves that are in that area, if you just thin them, if you're in the industry, not us.
Yeah.
But if you're in the industry, if you thin them and didn't take all of only one type, they would actually regenerate themselves, or would you need to come in there and replant?
It depends on the local circumstances.
Okay.
And for example, we have so much deers and moses here,
yeah.
so they will eat a lot of the regeneration.
The saplings,
Except the spruce samplings, because spruces are the least tasty trees seen from the deer's perspective. So in this area, I think you have to reduce the number of deers and elks.
Put some wolves in here.
That
Yes.
would be one way. Yeah. And nature is so big and so strong. So if